Before we start this episode, I do want to let you know that our audio is currently under construction. You might have noticed that our last few episodes might have been a little too quiet, so we're working on fixing that right now. We just didn't want to leave you guys without an episode this week. So, we hope you enjoy. You can still hear, it's just not its clearest quality, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with our next episode and we'll be better than ever. I hope you guys enjoy this episode, get some great information out of it, and thank you so much for listening. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Not Just Numbers, the SBNG Experience. We're happy to have you all back. Hope you've had a good few weeks. I am joined today by Karin Smith, who actually used to work here at SBNG. She was a tax manager here, and I know her as Professor Smith because she was actually my professor for principles in accounting. It was very exciting. I loved the class. You'll hear a lot about it today. But it's exciting because today you'll get some knowledge and some insight from a professor and a very well-seasoned tax accountant. So I'm happy to have you on, Miss Karin.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. Let's get started. Miss Karin, I'm so excited to have you on, not just as a former SBNG team member, but also as one of the people who inspired me in the classroom. I'm so excited to have you here. So let's start from the beginning. What first got you interested in accounting?
Actually, accounting is probably in my blood. My whole family in Austria are accountants. And as I was growing up, I wanted to do everything and anything to avoid studying accounting. I actually wanted to be a stage actress, believe it or not.
Wow.
But I met my husband, and that basically killed those dreams because we came to the US. And then when I decided I really did want to do something and not necessarily be a stage actress, I decided to give accounting a chance. And got inspired by my very first accounting instructor, Dr. Ramey in Michigan. She was newly out of college, but had worked in accounting firms while she was getting her degrees. And she was my inspiration to want to be an accountant.
Wow, how interesting. That's so exciting. So you were a tax manager here at SBNG, but you've also taught accounting. So how did those two interact? How did those two moments in your life intersect? When did you realize that being here made you want to teach?
I think what I liked most of being a tax manager, tax accountant, was actually being able to teach what I knew. The interns, when we got new tax interns, I always got very excited because I knew I could impart my knowledge on them. So teaching has always been my passion. Accounting was what gave me the venue to teach.
Okay, I've heard a lot of good things about my professor Karin. That's how I know you. I've heard a lot of good things. I talked to Marnie and a receptionist, and I tell her, oh my gosh, like I have this professor, she's so great. And I told her who you were, and she was like, she used to work here. And I was like, there's no way. And she would tell me that your office was a few feet away from her desk, and she would hear you teaching some of the interns or telling them how to do something, and she was like, I would learn. I would hear these things and I would be like, oh my goodness, she's a great teacher.
Yes, Marnie would get excited when she would hear that new interns were in my office because she always said you were so patient and you started in the beginning, and I felt like I was learning accounting.
Yes. So how long were you here with SBNG?
I started in 2009 and I did not retire till 2023.
Okay.
23. I worked part-time the last year I was here because, believe it or not, I had to return to college to get my master's degree because that's a requirement to be even an adjunct professor at UTEP.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. So how was your first few years here at SBNG?
I saw a lot of growth while I've been at SBNG, and where I used to be among the younger employees, all of a sudden I became one of the older employees, which also has its advantages. And I guess I loved working here because we truly had what the partners preached, a work-life balance. A lot of firms talk about it, very few implement it, and we really did have it.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. A lot of the people that we've had on here say it constantly. Like, I ask, what's your favorite part about working here? First answer is work-life balance.
Yes.
So if that's not, I promise you, they're not told to say that.
No, definitely not. I wouldn't be told to say anything if I didn't want to say it.
Exactly. Alright, so overall, what was it like working here, and what were the biggest lessons or skills that you took away and can now apply in your teaching?
I guess clients are in a way students also, because we teach them by going over the tax returns. We make them understand, because many of our clients think they have, well, let's say they have preconceived ideas about taxation and so on. So I was teaching the clients, and they had little to no experience, some, and others had quite a bit of experience. Some were even accountants themselves. So it wasn't very hard to transfer that to teaching.
Alrighty. So I guess, what was there a defining moment during your time here that helped you realize your goals, or was teaching kind of always the final goal?
In all honesty, when I got my accounting degree, I really thought that I wanted to teach. But I was already a mature student, because for my early years, when my son was little, I was teaching German. So really teaching, whether you teach German or you teach any other subject, you have that love or you don't have the love of teaching. But I felt that accounting, business in general, is a subject that you really have to have some experience in to be credible.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite instructors all had real life work experience, and I wanted to be like them.
Okay. And I feel like that really helps, because during a lot of your lectures, I can say that everything was explained so well from point A to point Z and all the other letters that you don't even think about in between. And I feel like you're right, like you couldn't get that information from somebody who doesn't have the first-hand experience.
Yes, even though I think there is a place for academia in accounting. I mean, certainly the professors that are doing the research, but even they rely on real world experience.
Yes.
Even if they don't have it themselves, they have to seek out firms to get that experience.
Okay, so I feel like we kind of talked about it a little bit, but like you said, you had to go back to school in order to get your master's to teach. So what was that path after leaving SBNG like? How did you get to where you are now from SBNG to being a professor?
I guess what was really interesting, because even then in the master's program, there were some instructors that I actually had professional contacts with over the years. So all of a sudden I became their student. I do have to point out, I actually won the Student of the Year in the MAC program, which is probably not surprising, since I had 20 plus years experience in taxation, and I've always loved being a student. I am a student that reads anything I can get my hands on. I read the textbook, I read the chapters, I supplement with anything that's going on currently. So I'm probably a professional student.
So what surprised you most about your career journey after SBNG?
How different the student body had gotten from when I got my bachelor's degree to getting my master's degree. I saw that there were completely different challenges facing the students. When I was a student, an undergrad student, there were not the temptations, all the other information out there. You studied from the textbook, you got your work notebooks and you worked the examples, but now all of a sudden everything is automated and everything is at your fingertips. Yet I think students are using what's available to them less.
Right.
And maybe it is really because there is so much available to them that they cannot sort out what's important and what's not important.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially with COVID, a lot of that changed, and now we're so into technology and stuff. And me being such a hands-on learner, I always spend more money, and I buy the textbooks, like the physical textbook, and I write my notes in it and everything. And they almost look at it as a disadvantage, because having that, you have to pay more, you have to carry it around, and it's really heavy, like things like that. So having this electronic books and homework assignments and everything makes it easier in a sense, but I feel like they kind of forgot a little bit about those hands-on teachers. I mean, hands-on students, which that's why I loved your class, because you apply the electronic homework and the textbook, but you also do like hands-on handouts. We have handouts, paper quizzes, paper exams, and that helps all sorts of learners. So I really love that about your class.
Well, thank you. I am a true believer in hands-on because I think what you solve yourself, I think of accounting as a skill. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And you must have heard me say in class more than once that accounting is not a spectator sport.
Yes.
It's something you have to do to get good at.
Yes, that's actually what I was going to bring up, is that I've heard that a lot from you, is that accounting is not a spectator sport, and I think I've realized that through your class and through working here, that yes, it's hands-on. Even the people who have been here, I noticed, for years, have to go to somebody else and ask a question, or have to, because it's always growing. There's always more to know.
Absolutely.
And I find that super interesting about the field.
Absolutely. Accounting is, and especially taxation, I think there are new things that you encounter on a daily basis. And you have to be open. You have to be an inquiring mind. You have to want to look into that, right?
Yes.
To open yourself up to learning. And it is lifelong learning if you become a tax accountant.
Yes, maybe that's why you love accounting, because you're always learning.
I think so. I really do think so. But another thing that I noticed from when I was a student the first time to when I got into my master's degree, and I realized a lot of my fellow students in the master's program were working full-time. Even in the undergrad, more students are working than ever before. However, I still think going to class is important. Because we learn as much from our fellow students as we sometimes learn from the instructor. It's what we in the academia we call horizontal learning that's going on. And that's not something that a teacher can bring into the classroom if you're teaching online or if you're not teaching in person, right?
Right, yes. So actually, speaking of, I guess, the learning process, what's some advice that you have for young professionals who are looking to maybe pursue a career in accounting?
Make sure you get your foundation in accounting, because accounting is a language as much as anything. It's the language of business. And with any language, and I see that with a lot of my fellow students, or students now that I instruct, they're bilingual. So they had to learn another language already. So accounting is a third language. And in order to do well in a language, you have to learn the structure of accounting, as well as the vocabulary of accounting. Yes. So get that foundation, and I swear you will fall in love with accounting like I did.
It's true. I went into accounting. So my brother-in-law is also an accountant, and he told me, because I'm majoring in marketing, he was like, you're going to do accounting. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, you're silly. I took your class, and I was like, I really like accounting.
Yes.
So there's a crossroad right now, but
good.
Yes.
And I love my students. I really, truly do. And I want all my students to do well. Some take the advice. Some wait till it's too late to take the advice. And I also realize that many students come into accounting with a preconceived notion of either loving accounting or hating accounting, and we're fighting that. And if somebody thinks of accounting as math and as difficult math, it's an uphill battle for them and for the instructor to engage with them.
Right. So I guess speaking about that, what are some underrated pros of a career in accounting that you wish more people knew about?
Oh, gosh, I think a lot of people are aware of the benefits of having studied accounting once they open themselves up to it, but sometimes they're not aware of in how many industries and organizations.
Yes.
And when a company starts out, when a company is successful, even when companies shut down, accountants are needed. And it's a profession that I liken to nursing that's very transferable. You can get a degree in Texas, you can work in Michigan, you can work in Alaska, you can work overseas. There will always be a need for accountants, I believe.
That is true, the job security and how much they're needed. You don't realize that.
Yes.
So would you say that accounting offers more freedom than people assume in terms of career options?
I think so, because most people have heard of the horrendous hours that people work in the now Big Four.
Yes.
And that it was just a mill, using up a young accountants and getting a new batch every year. And there may still be some truth to that,
Yes.
but not all accounting firms have bought into that. And many accounting firms want their employees to be very successful and hire from within.
Yes, that's true. We actually do have an episode coming soon where we're going to be talking about the Big Four versus regional firms versus smaller firms, just so people can have an understanding, because that is, I feel like, a really big misconception, that if you're an accountant, you're going to be working 70 hours a week, you're going to be no vacation, tax season is going to be horrible, and I feel like it's just about where you work, not so much about
the field itself.
Right.
I fully agree. And there's always going to be better firms to work for and firms that take more advantage of their employees.
Exactly.
But if you have happy employees, I think you will have happy customers as well.
Exactly.
Happy clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
So since you've both worked and taught in accounting, what do you think schools could do to better prepare students, or what could students do to better prepare themselves?
There's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect, because firms are going to expect certain software, schools will require other software, and really semesters don't lend themselves to teaching all sorts of different software. So sometimes we don't talk to the employers first before we settle on the software. We could probably improve on that. That students come more equipped using software. I know in the principal's class we had some Excel projects, and even though these Excel projects were far from perfect, because they wanted to be solved, every single problem, a certain way and only that way. And I had some actually rather skilled Excel users that didn't do so well. So I've made the suggestion, and one of the fellow instructors has made the suggestion, that we leave that as extra credit. So when students are struggling in the class, give them more extra credit, and one of them being the Excel.
Okay.
Because I did hear that that was something that the employers in the El Paso area had requested, that we teach more Excel, that some students come to the office not knowing Excel yet.
Okay, oh, that's good. So you heard it from the professor herself. Kind of get a little bit of Excel knowledge if you're not familiar with it at all. But I've noticed a lot of the courses, especially the first few years of a business degree plan, include a lot of Excel homework assignments.
And it really should be part of the curriculum, not an extra, right? You should incorporate it in the homework. I would like it better if we could find more Excel homework problems.
Okay, interesting. Alrighty, so do you feel, well, I guess we did talk about this a little bit with you mentioning your first professor, but do you feel like mentorship played a role in your career?
Absolutely. I think that makes a big difference. And having a professor that engages the students, that wants to be in the classroom and
Yes.
wants to teach a subject he or she is passionate about can make a real difference in
Yes,
inspiring students.
that is very true. So, I guess a little bit of advice from you. How can new grads find or be good mentors?
Probably the new grads, how do you do that? You probably do it over the course of your studies already. You just go see your professors more. And I realize not everyone has the luxury, but I always rewarded students when they came to see me the first time, they would get 5 extra credit points. And it seems like we need to reward them to want to come see us because many of them think it's a way of kissing up to the instructor, but it's not. We like to know as much as we can about our students
Yes.
so that we can help them out when they are having issues.
Exactly.
And we can pretty quickly gauge the students that we think, oh, this student may have some issues, and encourage them to go to tutoring. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I noticed that. I feel like, especially with the newer generations, we've all noticed a big shift in mentality. Um, and you can see that people, the newer generations, have a hard time asking for help, have a hard time. It's even a joke around here, making the phone call to make the doctor's appointment, or making the phone call to speak to a manager, whatever it may be. It's even, things have changed in that sense, and you need to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to even just introduce yourself to the professor and be like, I'm enjoying your class, or I have a question, or I feel like this is really easy, or whatever it may be. You need to know how to ask and how to communicate in that sense.
I agree. Communication is probably what many students will have to work on,
Yes.
whether it's written or oral.
Mm-hmm.
And it may stem for some of them because they are bilingual, but so am
Yes.
I. You can overcome that. And there comes a point where you just have to take charge of your own career.
Yes.
And you have to tell yourself, I may not like speaking in front of people,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I need to do, right? To get better at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel there's this quote that I see in one of my favorite movies, and it's never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. I love that quote because it's true. You can't just be afraid of rejection or whatever it may be that you're afraid of. Even just some people are afraid of confrontation in the sense of being afraid to talk to a professor because you know they're a higher education level than you are, just overall more educated people, and it might be scary, but you're, again, you can't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
I think that's very good advice.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's wonderful advice. And sometimes we need to do what comes hard to us, whether it's speaking in front of a group, whether it's writing if you're not a strong writer, but we need to work on those things. And failure only leads to success down the road, right?
Exactly. Yes, I agree. So coming back to SBNG,
Mm-hmm.
for some people who are looking or maybe considering working here at the firm, what is some advice that you have to them, whether it be do this, don't do that, or what are some things that maybe you know about the firm that would encourage somebody?
Okay, I always tell my students, don't wait till your final semester to do an internship. Because an internship is not just for the employer, but it's also for the student, helping them decide what they want to do. And if you can
Yes.
do more than one internship, that's probably even better. I think it will make you a better staff accountant when you finally do take that first job.
Yes.
So get involved in professional societies. We have the Accounting Society, Beta Alpha Psi at the university. Those are all wonderful things, and you're already beginning to network.
Yes.
Because networking is probably what is the most important thing that a young professional can do.
Yes, I actually have seen that a lot. We have had a few interns where they're working their job and they enjoy it, and then all of a sudden they want to end their internship for whatever reason, and you ask them, why the
Mhm.
sudden change of heart? and they say, I don't think tax accounting is for me. And they want to maybe pursue something else, or maybe working at a firm isn't for me. Maybe I want to work for a business somewhere else. And that's really good advice, actually.
Yes.
To test the waters, basically.
Yes, and it's easier to test the waters while you're still a student, because
Yes.
we expect that of students, right?
Yes.
That they're not the loyalist at this point,
Mhm.
because companies are not necessarily that loyal to them yet.
Right.
We're all checking each other out. And
Yes.
I would say to any student that's in their sophomore classes, start looking around for internships, and maybe do one in industry, do one for a not-for-profit, and then go to a public accounting firm. Because how do you know what you're going to like if you don't try various things?
Exactly. Even, especially because there's so much to do in accounting, you're
Mhm.
never gonna know what you want to do until you try it.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And if you love hotels, work in a hotel reception. Do their accounting for them. There is so many different fields you can use. Even Hollywood uses accountants, right?
Yes.
In the production of their films,
Yes.
you always, in the credits, always see an accountant listed.
There's money in everything.
Yes,
So.
absolutely.
Alrighty, so Miss Karin, we have this little segment in our podcast episodes. It's called Rapid Fire Questions,
Okay.
where we just kind of ask questions, and it's like whatever comes first to
Okay.
your mind.
Sounds like
You
fun.
ready?
I'm ready.
Alright. I already know the answer to this one, but tax or audit?
Tax.
What is your most memorable work moment at SBNG?
Probably the April 15th parties.
Okay. What is your go-to coffee order during tax season?
Soy latte.
Really?
Yes.
Alrighty. So, dream vacation after a long, busy season?
To a Mexican resort.
Ooh, those are fun. There's so
Mhm.
much to do.
Yes.
What's one thing you miss about the SBNG office?
The camaraderie.
Alrighty, that's a good one. Alrighty, well that's all the questions for today in our little rapid fire segment.
Okay.
Alrighty, so Miss Karin, it's been a lot of fun having you here. I feel like a lot of the things that have been said can help a student, or can help a young professional, or someone who's recently graduated, or someone who's even considering a career in accounting. So I thank you so much for stopping by today. For everybody who's actually, you know what, wait, before we finish, is there any last piece of advice that you have for those listening?
Be yourself, stay curious, and realize that it's not a one-man show. Be a team player.
Yes, that's great advice. So thank you again for joining us. Everybody listening, please make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at SBNG CPA. And follow our podcast wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like I said in our last episode, we will soon be putting our episodes out on YouTube for those who don't have streaming services. So keep an eye on that. We'll have them all out soon. We have a new episode coming out every 2 weeks. So make sure to keep an eye on that. And it's been great having you all. Have a great rest of your week.